She was hiding under the bed on her wedding night, giggling, heart racing, when she heard footsteps that didn't belong to her husband. Red heels, a stranger's sharp perfume cutting through the air, and then a woman's voice, dripping with contempt, rifling through her closet, mocking every dress, every label, every piece of her life. Chloe pressed her ear to the cold floor and didn't move. She couldn't. Because what came next, a phone call, a voice she recognized, words she was never meant to hear, was about to tear her world completely apart. Her mother-in-law, her beloved, soft-spoken, simple country woman, mother-in-law, on speaker, calmly, coldly, laying out a plan to steal the house, drain her parents, and replace her entirely. And the man Chloe had just stood at the altar with? He was in on every single word. This is a story about betrayal at its most brutal, and about a woman who chose to walk through that fire, not broken, not begging, but burning everything on her way out. Here's what this story teaches us. No matter how deep the trap is dug, the ones with real strength always find a way to climb out and make sure the ones who dug it are left behind in the dark. If that resonates with you, smash that like button, share this story with someone who needs to feel that strength today, leave a comment about what this made you feel, and subscribe so these stories find you every single week. This content was manually researched, developed, and edited by our team, crafted with purpose to bring you meaning and real-life lessons worth carrying with you.
The ballroom noise was a headache. I faked a smile, my grip tight on my glass, pretending this whole night wasn't a carefully constructed lie. Her parents held court, blissfully unaware. A cold sweat traced my spine. My mother was playing her part. This whole fragile future rested on tonight. 3,000 square feet, $10 million. The number was a drumbeat in my skull. This opulence, this life was for my son. I just had to survive this night. I once stood in a blizzard for her. A foolish memory. Now, I could only think of the key I'd given my mother and the woman who would use it. I watched her slip away earlier, that innocent smile on her face. Her childish games felt like a weakness I was born to exploit. Another toast. I raised my glass to her father, my mouth dry. I had to leave soon. Everything depended on my timing. My phone vibrated. Mom's text. She's in. A sickening wave of relief hit me. The first domino had fallen. There was no going back. I smelled her mother's expensive perfume. It wasn't like Jessica's, the cheap, sweet scent that was the smell of my real, desperate life. I pictured Jessica in those rooms, her eyes taking in the ridiculous wealth. Her bitterness fueled mine. It kept me focused. Jessica would call her spoiled, and she'd be right. Chloe knew nothing of real hunger, of needing something so badly you'd tear down the world for it. The call should be happening. My heart hammered, a frantic, guilty beat. Stick to the plan, I told myself. Just stick to the damn plan. My mother's act today was perfection. The tears, the loving embrace for the girl whose life we were about to gut. She was always the strong one. The farm life, the honest hands, a perfect costume. We were starving dogs, and Chloe's family had just served us a feast on a silver platter. It was my idea for Jessica to call her Mom, a small, cruel detail that made our secret family feel solid, unbreakable. Chloe was a lamb, sheltered her whole life. Taking from her was almost too easy. A small, buried part of me felt sick. I stamped it out. My grandson. Thinking the words gave me strength. This wasn't just greed. It was for my bloodline. Her $10 million would build my son's future. The deed still being in her name was a problem, a temporary one. I just had to act the part of the devoted husband a little longer. A healthy boy. The doctor's words echoed in my head. I poured a drink for her uncle, my hand perfectly steady. I was doing this for my son. Giving Mom that spare key was a calculated risk. The look on Chloe's trusting face when I suggested it still burns me. I told myself it was necessary. I saw myself in a darkened window, a smiling fraud in a tuxedo, a hollow man, a monster wearing a wedding ring. The security excuse for the deed would work. She was crazy about me. Her love was a tool, and I was a craftsman of deceit. Half wasn't enough. Jessica knew it, and so did I. It had to be everything. A clean slate with no trace of her left in our lives. My mother saw Chloe clearly. She was an obstacle. My son deserved this life, and she was just a placeholder, a means to an end. Accidents happen. The thought was a dark pit in my stomach I'd agreed to leap into. I had to believe the landing was worth the fall. I promised to cherish her. My own words were poison. This whole performance was draining me, hollowing me out one lie at a time. It was time. I made my excuses, pretending the champagne had finally hit me. The real work was about to begin. I found Jessica in the master bedroom, bad, sloppy. A flare of anger hit me. "What are you doing in here?" I whispered. She whined about the ceremony. I pulled her to me, the motions mechanical, whispering the lies she needed to keep the plan from derailing. The baby, our son. I focused on that. "I know, baby," I murmured, cutting the call with my mother. Her part was done. Now it was all on me. I had to get back down there, keep up appearances. One wrong move and this empire of lies would shatter. "I know, Mom," I said, and ended it. Her question about the bed was a distraction. "Hush, baby," I whispered. This wasn't about love. It was about managing a volatile asset. Aspen, the resort. I dangled it in front of her like a prize. Chloe wasn't a wife. She was a bank, and I was planning a heist. I pulled away. "I need to get downstairs." Time was short. "Leave nothing behind," I hissed. The risk felt suffocating. She wanted a pink bag. So trivial. Why just one? I smiled, the lie smooth as silk. The thought of it all being ours was my only North Star. I stumbled back to the reception, playing the part of the happy drunk. Her father slapped my back. Inside, I was cold sober and coiled with fear. I couldn't face her tonight. Not in that bed. I'd pass out on a couch, claim sickness, anything to avoid her. The thought of her touch made my skin crawl. The lie was a physical barrier between us, thicker than any wall. My plan was simple. Be dead to the world. Let her think I was a harmless drunk. It was a better disguise than the truth. To them, I was the simple man who got lucky. A lamb. They had no idea the wolf was already inside, sharpening his teeth. I collapsed on a sofa near the bar, feigning sleep. The perfect end to the first night of my new, stolen life. The first step was complete. I thought of my son, Jessica, the $10 million. The guilt was a quiet shadow, but I refused to look. I had made my choice. I would not falter now. The cheers followed me down the hall, a roar I didn't deserve. I just had to get through this one night. I stumbled into the room, letting the booze be my excuse, and avoided looking at her face. The guilt was a physical thing, a weight pressing me down. "He's all yours," Mike boomed, shoving me forward. I kept my eyes clamped shut. If I couldn't see her, I didn't have to feel the shame. I let myself be dumped on the bed, the clean sheets a stark contrast to my own filth. I heard her rush over, her voice a perfect imitation of concern. The act was sickening, mostly because mine had to be better. I just needed her to believe I was a drunken fool, not a monster. They dropped me like a dead weight. I focused on the pillow, on breathing evenly. I felt the door click shut, the silence wrapping around us. The air grew thick with my deception. I could feel her standing over me. In my mind, I saw the perfect suit, the crooked tie. I could smell the cheap perfume Jessica had doused me in. It was a brand, a claim. The scent was a betrayal I couldn't hide. She had to smell it. I braced myself, digging my own nails into my palms under the covers. This whole charade felt flimsy. I was never this kind of drunk. The promise I'd made to Jessica echoed in my head. I won't touch her. A loyal husband to someone else. The bitter irony almost made me choke. Then a sudden, sharp noise. Glass shattered. I flinched, my whole body tensing before I could stop it. A test. I forced out a loud, pathetic snore, praying it was enough. The silence that followed was terrifying. I knew she wasn't sleeping. I could feel her eyes on me all night, a constant burning pressure on my back. This bed, this room, felt like a cage I'd built myself. Did she remember how we met? The promises I made? I did. Each memory was another stone in my gut. I told myself it was for a good reason, for Jessica and the baby, but the justification felt hollow. Her family's trust was the cruelest part. No prenup, just cash and property handed over with a smile. They'd given me everything. I was about to take the rest. I felt like a thief, waiting for dawn to make my escape. The light finally came. Time for Act 2. I started my performance groaning and stretching as if waking from a deep, drunken slumber. Then I saw her in the chair. The dark circles under her eyes were a punch to the gut. A flash of real guilt shot through me before I buried it. "Honey?" I croaked, reaching for her. She flinched away. She handed me water with a tired smile, lying smoothly about me being sick all night. The relief was dizzying. She bought it. She actually bought my pathetic act. The apology rolled off my tongue, rehearsed and perfect. I was just so happy. "I'll make it up to you." I sounded so sincere, I almost believed it myself. The trust in her eyes was a stake through my heart. "We have our whole lives," she said, and the words felt like a death sentence. I escaped to the bathroom, the lock clicking behind me like the closing of a cell door. My reflection was a stranger's. Downstairs, the smell of bacon was an illusion of normalcy. Mom was there, her smile ready. We were a team. This had to work. Then the guest room door opened and my heart stopped. "My sweet girl," Mom chirped at Chloe, the perfect loving mother-in-law. It was a masterful performance, a beautiful, poisonous lie, and I was standing right in the middle of it. Jessica appeared in the doorway right on cue. My stomach twisted into a knot. This was it, the real test, the collision of my two worlds. Then I saw it. She was wearing Chloe's wrap, that ridiculously expensive cashmere thing. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. Her belly was obvious. Everything was happening too fast. That wrap was a trophy, a deliberate provocation. I felt a surge of anger at Jessica's recklessness, but I had to hold it together. I couldn't break now. I was trapped. "Jacob, who is this?" Chloe's voice was quiet. My mind raced for the script. "Oh, that's my cousin Jessica," I said, the lie tasting like acid. "Just here for a checkup." Mom jumped in, selling the story with practiced ease. Her words were a safety net, but I felt like I was falling anyway. I watched Chloe's face, searching for any sign of suspicion. "She's like a sister to Jacob," Mom cooed. The lies were so thick you could choke on them. I felt Jessica's eyes on me, demanding, and Chloe's, questioning. I was drowning. If she knew what we'd discussed last night. I pushed the thought away. I had to believe in our act, in her gullibility. She was just a rich girl who didn't know the world. Jessica played her part perfectly, the shy, scared victim. It was a good move. It forced Chloe's hand, cornering her with kindness. I held my breath, waiting for the trap to spring, and Chloe walked right into it. She rushed to Jessica's side, all warmth and welcome. "You're my sister now." I couldn't believe it. It was working. It was actually working. My relief was so profound it almost buckled my knees. Chloe was everything I'd thought. Kind, naive, and easy to fool. This was going to be simpler than I'd imagined. Mom shot me a triumphant look. We had her. The stupid rich girl was ours. I felt a surge of smug power, the guilt momentarily forgotten. We were in control. Then Chloe's eyes landed on the wrap. "That's beautiful on you," she said, her voice light. "It looks familiar." My blood ran cold. The smugness evaporated, replaced by sheer terror. Jessica went pale. I froze. Mom scrambled, her voice a little too bright as she spun another lie about Jessica being cold. The air crackled with tension. "Why don't you just let her have it?" Mom pushed, turning theft into a gift. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was a nightmare. This whole perfect plan was unraveling, thread by tiny thread. My mother's nagging grated on me, but then Chloe's voice cut in, offering the damn shawl. Jessica's face tightened. Good. Then Chloe mentioned a handbag and a cold knot formed in my stomach. What was she playing at? This felt like a test. When she said Chanel, my blood ran cold. The pink one. The exact bag Jessica had screamed at me about. It couldn't be a coincidence. I watched her walk to the bedroom, my heart pounding a sick, heavy rhythm. This was a trap. It had to be. But then I saw the raw greed on Jessica's face, and my fear twisted into a sick kind of pride. I could give her this. I was the one making this happen. Her pathetic, fumbling words were just part of the game we all had to play. We're family now. Chloe's words were poison, sweet, and deadly. I felt a flash of shame, using her money to buy off my mistress, but I shoved it down. I had to keep Jessica happy. I just nodded. Take it. That whole breakfast felt like I was holding my breath. I praised her, my words tasting like ash, while Jessica shot daggers at her with her eyes. I just wanted it to be over. I needed to get out of this lie, if only for an hour. When she said she was going to the office, it was like the sun coming out. A whole day without the act. A whole day with my real family. I could finally breathe. The relief was so intense, it almost made me dizzy. Of course, honey, I said, the lie slipping out easily, too easily. A part of me hated how simple it was to fool her. Drive safe. My mother chimed in with her own false sweetness. It was a perfect, disgusting performance. The moment that elevator door slid shut, the mask fell. I let out a long, slow breath and turned to my mother. Freedom. I didn't give a damn about Chloe's hard day at work. I just wanted her gone. While she was out, the penthouse was finally ours. We talked openly, planning. Jessica complained about needing things for the baby. Mom kept pushing me to act faster. It felt good being in control in her house. For those few hours, I was the king. I imagined this life, with all her money and none of her judgment. I let myself believe the lie that I deserved this, that she was just an obstacle to the life that was owed to me. I never once thought about that joint account. $5,000 was pocket change to her. It was a symbol, a stupid little test of trust I'd passed. It never occurred to me she'd ever look at it. My arrogance was a blindfold. The money had been a constant bleeding wound. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. Then Jessica's demands grew. The $5,000 for her was a gamble, a desperate move to keep her quiet during the wedding plans, a necessary evil. My name on that transfer would have been a death sentence. It was reckless, I knew it even then. But I felt invincible, wrapped in the certainty that Chloe was too trusting, too naive to ever uncover the truth I hid in plain sight. I was building a future on a foundation of theft and lies, and I told myself it was for my son. That was the grandest lie of all. It wasn't for him. It was for me. It was for the weakness inside me that I couldn't face. The afternoon dragged on. The perfect life I was pretending to have felt more and more like a cage. Every quiet moment was filled with the hum of my own anxiety, the fear of a single misstep bringing it all down. I had to keep telling myself the prize was worth the risk. I imagined selling this place, buying a house for Jessica, being a father. I focused on the fantasy so I wouldn't have to look at the man I'd become. The pressure from my mother and Jessica was relentless. I was their golden ticket, and they never let me forget it. Their greed was a mirror for my own, and I hated what I saw. So I just pushed harder, digging the hole deeper. I just needed one big score, the house. Once I had that, I could fix everything. I could pay everyone off. I could be the man I was supposed to be. That one last monstrous lie was the only thing keeping me going. I took a nap that afternoon. The stress was a physical weight, crushing me. I fell into a heavy, dreamless sleep, thinking I was safe, thinking the hardest part was over. What a fool I was. I slept like the dead, snoring in her bed, in her home, completely oblivious. I felt secure, hidden. It never entered my mind that she could be anything other than the trusting woman I was so easily betraying. I had no idea my world was being wired for sound and sight. While I slept, the sanctuary I had built for my lies was being turned into a stage for my downfall. Every corner was becoming a witness. My secret conversations with my mother, my promises to Jessica, I believed they were safe behind closed doors. The idea that she would ever suspect, let alone act, was so far beyond my comprehension, it was laughable. To me, she was predictable, sheltered, weak. My plan depended on her being exactly who I thought she was. I never considered for a second that I was the one who couldn't see what was right in front of my face. Even in her sleep, Jessica was a source of anxiety. Her mumbling my name was a constant reminder of the risk, the child, the future I was stealing to create. But even that wasn't enough to wake me up. I was so sure of my own cleverness. The lies felt solid, real. The plan was perfect. I was untouchable. My ego was the last line of defense for a moral coward, and I was holding that line with everything I had. While she was turning my home into a prison, I was dreaming of freedom. I had no idea that when I woke up, the trial would have already begun, and I was the only one who didn't know it. The cage was locked. I heard her come in, and the act started again. The smell of dinner, my mother's fake smile, it was all part of the suffocating play. I had to put my mask back on, the loving husband returning from a long day of nothing. I took her coat. I kissed her cheek. It felt like kissing a stone. I had to pretend to care, to be the man she married yesterday, a man who had never really existed. "Tough day, honey." The words were hollow, automatic. I saw the look Jessica gave her, pure poison. I was standing between two warring countries, and I was the cause of the war. That perfect family picture was a ticking bomb. "My wonderful family," she said, and I had to fight not to flinch. The lie was so thick I could barely breathe. I just ate, focusing on my plate, my mind racing ahead to the next part of the plan. Their ruin was my salvation. When she finally went to bed, the relief was overwhelming. Now, the real work could begin. I sat with my mother and Jessica, the TV a meaningless drone in the background. The air crackled with anticipation. The click of her bedroom door was our signal. My mother's sweet face hardened instantly. It was time. A sick excitement stirred in me. This was it. This was where we sealed the deal. "She suspects nothing," my mother whispered, and I sneered. "She's a spoiled idiot, Mom." Saying it out loud made it feel true. It had to be true. Otherwise, what did that make me? "She's wrapped around my finger," I bragged, needing them to believe it, needing to believe it myself. Then Jessica started in about the house, her voice sharp with need. Her impatience was going to ruin everything. Her desperation was a constant threat. "Patience," I hissed. I laid out the plan for the dinner at her parents' house. Another performance. Another night of lies. I was so tired of it, but I was in too deep to stop. I explained how I'd play the victim, how I'd break her down with fake vulnerability. I was proud of the plan's cruelty. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. To get what I wanted, I would destroy her piece by piece. My mother's praise was like fuel. "Brilliant, Jacob." In her eyes, I was a genius, not a monster. We talked about forcing the sale, buying a mansion, and leaving Chloe with nothing. It felt real. It felt close. I thought back to last night, to the finality of that promise I made to Jessica. The money, the cars, clearing her out, the throat-slitting gesture. It was just for show, a dark joke, wasn't it? A cold dread seeped into me. It was a promise I never intended to keep, but it was a thought I had allowed myself to have. Jessica's eyes lit up. Not with fear, but with a raw, hungry ambition that mirrored my own. "You're a genius, Jacob," she'd whispered. Her talk of closets and clothes was just noise. What mattered was the goal. In that moment, listening to her and my mother plot our future, I felt a surge of power, a certainty that this was the only way forward. The plan was simple. Play the victim, get my name on the title, and secure our future. It had to work. Standing under the freezing water, I let the doubt wash away. This wasn't just a performance. This was for survival. She wanted a show? Fine. I'd give her a masterpiece of heartbreak at her parents' house tomorrow. I was the one directing this. She would see a broken man, a husband crushed by inadequacy. She'd fall for it. She had to. I'd walk her right into the palm of my hand, and she would give me everything, not even realizing she was being cornered. As the sun came up, my resolve felt as sharp as glass. I woke up staring at the ridiculous crystal thing hanging from the ceiling. For a beat, everything was quiet. Then the script replayed in my head. The sad story. My name on the house. Bleeding her dry. The words weren't snakes in my stomach. They were fuel, a necessary mantra to get what I deserved. I felt her eyes on me as I pretended to sleep, my breathing slow and even. Let her look. Let her see the harmless, loving husband she thought she married. The mask was everything. The real me, the one with a plan, had to stay hidden. This was just the opening scene. I couldn't afford to miss a single cue. The comforter was thrown back, a deliberate, sharp sound. "Honey, wake up." Her voice cut through my feigned sleep. I blinked, rubbing my eyes, and slid the mask on. The doting husband. I reached for her, a reflex, a part of the costume. She shifted away just an inch, talking about slippers. I felt it, that little bit of distance. Paranoia pricked at me, but I pushed it down. She was just tired. "Go back to sleep," I murmured, playing the caring husband. I brought up my mother and the gifts, a perfect seed to plant for later. My mother and her gifts. Perfect. The cheaper, the better. It all fed the narrative. I walked into the dining room and my plan was laid out before me. The greasy food, the cheap offerings, it was all part of the stage I was setting. Jessica was there, in Chloe's chair, looking right at home. It felt right. My mother greeted Chloe with that practiced, tight smile of hers. Everything was going according to plan. The stage was set perfectly for the first act. My mother's line about the diner hash browns was a nice touch. I watched Chloe's eyes drift to the cheap plastic bags on the coffee table, the bargain bin whiskey, the discount vitamins. I saw the flicker of disappointment in her face and knew the bait was taken. "Are those the gifts?" she asked. The question I was waiting for. I looked away, injecting the right amount of shame into my voice. Yeah, Mom said older people like practical things." Then, the lie I'd perfected. "You know I give you my paycheck, honey. I don't have much extra." It was technically true. I gave her the card with my pathetic salary, conveniently forgetting the thousands I'd wheedle out of her for expenses. It was a beautiful, necessary fiction. Jessica jumped in right on cue, my perfect ally. She defended me, painting Chloe and her family as materialistic, all about appearances. I felt a surge of pride. We were a team. We had her cornered. Then Chloe laughed. Not a bitter laugh, but a light, airy sound that sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't in the script. I saw the look she gave Jessica's pregnant belly, and for a second, I thought the whole thing would blow up. But she just laughed. "Cousin Jessica has a point." Her voice was bright, agreeable. It was the last thing I expected. She twisted the situation, making it about my pride, my reputation. She was turning my own trap against me, and I was forced to play along. I watched, helpless, as she walked to that glass case. She was taking control of the narrative, and I hated it. Those bottles she pulled out were worth more than my car. A wave of sickening envy washed over me. She put the expensive scotch on the table and said, "These are from Jacob." The words hung in the air. I heard my mother gasp. I saw the raw greed in Jessica's eyes. This wasn't a gift. It was a power move. A beautiful, cruel power move. My mother, bless her greedy heart, couldn't help herself. "Isn't it a waste?" she stammered, already reaching for the box. I wanted to scream at her to stop, to not show her hand so obviously. She was ruining the whole act. But Chloe was smoother. She took the bottles, her voice laced with disappointment. "Mom, you can't say that." She was framing it as an issue of honor, of my respect for her father. She was trapping me in a cage of generosity I couldn't afford. "Right, Jacob?" She passed the bomb to me. Giving away that scotch felt like tearing out a piece of my own soul. But I had to smile. I had to play the part. "Yeah," I choked out. The performance had to go on. I saw Jessica's jaw tighten, her knuckles white around her fork. Her fury was a mirror of my own. We were being outplayed, and the gifts, our ticket to her parents' sympathy, were now symbols of her victory as they disappeared into her car. The day was already a disaster. As we walked to the Mercedes her father bought her, I felt like a fraud. I got into the driver's seat of a car I could never own, driving to an estate that mocked me with its sheer size. The performance had to start now. I had to get this back on track. The silence was my stage. I let out a heavy sigh, a carefully crafted sound of despair. I gripped the wheel, letting the tension show in my shoulders. I could feel her watching me, and I prepared for my opening line. "Let the show begin." "Honey, what's wrong?" Right on cue. Her voice was filled with the exact gentle concern I needed. I let the silence hang for another beat, milking the drama before I turned to her. It was time. I let my voice crack, layering it with all the real resentment I felt and calling it pain. "Chloe, I'm in so much pain." I almost believed it myself. The script my mother and I had practiced felt less like a lie and more like a confession. She fell into her role perfectly, the loving wife, her heart breaking for me. It gave me the fuel I needed. At the next red light, I slammed on the brakes, turning to her with everything I had. I dredged up every insecurity, every ounce of jealousy, and let it pool in my eyes. "I'm not good enough for you, Chloe." The words came out, a torrent of practiced self-pity. The poor kid from the country, laughed at behind my back. It was a perfect tragedy. "They call me a gold digger," I whispered, burying my face in my hands. I let my shoulders shake, timing each sob. This was my masterpiece. I was the victim, the martyr, and she was my only salvation. The deed to the house was my price for this pain. "It's a living hell," I croaked, twisting the knife. I was painting a picture of a man being crucified by her family's wealth, and I was making her feel like the one who'd hammered in the nails. I waited for the dam to break, for her to offer me anything. The house, her name next to mine, but her words were like a splash of cold water. "Honey, don't listen to them." It was comfort, not a solution. My heart sank. "A house is just a thing," she said. "Our love is what matters." The words were a dismissal. She wasn't getting it. She was supposed to fix my pain with a signature on a document, not with empty platitudes. The panic began to set in. I had to recover. I couldn't let her see my frustration. I pivoted, my voice thick with fake emotion. "I know you don't care, Chloe, but I do." I had to make this about her, about my desperate need to prove myself worthy. I have to prove I'm not some parasite. I threw the word out there, a piece of raw meat, hoping she'd choke on it. I called her penthouse someone else's roof, a calculated insult designed to shame her into action. Her face was pure sympathy, but her words were a brick wall. "We'll get there, together." And then, the ultimate deflection. "We're almost at my parents' house." She wasn't caving. She wasn't even playing the game anymore. I saw it then. I had failed. The rage was a hot spike in my gut, but I had to swallow it down. I nodded, playing the part of the dutiful husband. Of course. The irony was a bitter pill. I wouldn't be an embarrassment. I already was one. Pulling up that long driveway felt like a death march. Her parents were there, her father clapping my shoulder with a laugh that sounded like a judgment. I was walking into the lion's den, and I had just lost my sword and shield. Her dad put a hand on my shoulder, calling me family but warning me about his daughter. I just smiled my well-rehearsed smile and handed over the expensive gifts. "She means everything to me, sir," I lied. I'd never let anything harm her, I promised, passing him the scotch. They were eating it up. It was never about the gifts, it was about the act, and I was a damn good actor. Her mother dismissed the bottle, saying our happiness was enough. Inside, the house was a monument to their money. I looked at it all, tasting a future I was about to steal. The art, the endless rooms. I saw it all as my kingdom. During lunch, they treated me like the son they never had. I knew then I had them right where I wanted them. The wine had done its job. I put my fork down, drained my glass, and slammed it on the table. The crack of glass on wood was my cue. The show was starting. "Jacob, what is it?" her father asked, his face creased with concern. I let the tears come, a practiced stream of sorrow. I kicked back my chair and fell to my knees on the cold floor. Kneeling felt like a small price to pay. Dignity was cheap when the prize was this big. "Dad, Mom," I sobbed, the words catching in my throat. "I failed you. I failed Chloe." Her mother shot up, begging me to stand. I refused, milking the moment for everything it was worth. "No," I cried. "I have to say this right here, on my knees. Chloe deserved a better man." I wept. "I live in your house. At work, they whisper that I'm just a gold digger, a kept man living off your family's fortune." Her father's face turned to stone. He was old school. He hated gossip. "Who says that?" he demanded. The anger was exactly what I wanted. "Words destroy a man, sir," I whispered. "The work I can handle," I sobbed, "but the shame. I can't let them say my wife married a failure." I looked up, my face a mask of false sincerity. "I just want my pride back." And then, the final move. "I'm begging you, just let me put my name on the deed. It isn't about the money. I'll write you an IOU for every last penny. I'll spend my life paying you back," I swore. "I just need this one thing, this last piece of myself, so I can say that it's my home, too." It was, I thought, a stroke of genius. The offer to repay a debt they'd never collect made me look noble. It was the perfect manipulation, and they were falling for it. That IOU was just paper. We were family. They would never cash it in. The plan felt so flawless, so obvious, and just like that, they surrendered. Her mother, crying now, pulled me to my feet. "Oh, you dear boy," she sniffled. "Of course. We'll add your name tomorrow. Don't be silly about an IOU." A jolt of pure triumph shot through me. I tried to hide the smirk. I had won. $10 million, and half of it was mine. All I could think about was telling Sarah. Then Chloe stood, her arm linking with mine. Her smile was blindingly bright and terrifyingly fake. "Honey," she whispered, her voice like ice. I have never been so moved. She told her parents it was fine, that she agreed with the whole thing. I just stared at her, my mind reeling. The easy way she gave in. It felt wrong. It felt dangerous. "Are you serious, Chloe?" My voice shook. "Of course," she said, her tone shifting. "But honey, an IOU is just paper. The gossip will continue." "They'll say you scammed us for a free house," she said, twisting the knife. "Your pride will still be gone." Panic began to crawl up my spine. "So what are you saying?" Her father watched us, his face a perfect mask. He was a shark who knew a power play was in motion. Chloe turned back to me, dangling a new, more glittering bait. "To shut them up for good," she said, "you need to buy your half, with cash." The floor fell out from under me. "Chloe, that's $5 million. You know I don't have that." She laughed, patting my hand like I was a fool. "I know," she whispered. "But Dad has a private investment opportunity, a huge government contract. It's a 30-day cycle," she said, her voice dropping lower. "A guaranteed 300% return." My heart started pounding. 300%. The math was already running in my head. She saw the greed on my face and pushed harder. "The slots are impossible to get. Dad saved one for me, but you need this more. You deserve this chance." "Dad, Jacob is family," she pleaded, turning to him. "You have to help him. Please give him the slot." Her father's face darkened, becoming a mask of serious deliberation. "Absolutely not," he snapped. "That project is top secret, Chloe." His performance was flawless. His rejection was the one thing that made me believe it was real. His refusal incinerated the last bit of my common sense. All that was left was blinding greed. I turned to him, a desperate gambler begging for a sure thing. "Please, sir, I'm begging," I pleaded. "The moment the money comes in, I'll buy my share." He let out a long, theatrical sigh. "All right, fine. But the buy-in is $1 million cash," he said. "Can you handle that?" $1 million. The air left my lungs. I just wired $5,000 to my pregnant mistress. But the lure of the return, of owning that house, was a black hole that sucked in all reason, a desperate fire lit in my gut. I would find a way. I had to. "I'll get the $1 million," I told him. "I'll borrow it." Chloe leaned in. "Maybe a short-term loan? It's just for 1 month. The interest will be nothing." "Then your name is on the deed," she whispered, "and your pride is restored." A loan shark. The idea was insane, but she made it sound like salvation. "You're right," I said, my mind made up. "Save my spot. I'll have the cash in 3 days." I was marching toward my own execution, and I thought it was a parade in my honor. Then she pulled a thick document from her purse. "Compliance is very strict," she said casually. "We have to separate our assets for this project. It's classified." "It's just a post-nup," she said, waving it off. "A formality. It just states that this loan you're taking on is your debt, and your debt alone." "It also says if one of us cheats," she added with a smile, "they leave with nothing. You love me, right? It's just a signature." That document was a loaded gun pointed at my head. Looking back, I see it now. Every clause was a steel bar. With what she knew about my affair, that paper would leave me with nothing but the shark's debt. I hesitated for a single heartbeat. Sarah? The baby? My conscience screamed, but the thought of the money, of winning, was a deafening roar. I was arrogant. I was sure she'd never find out. The risk felt miles away. The reward was right in front of me. "Of course I'd never betray you," I said, reaching for the pen. I didn't read a single word. I just flipped to the last page and signed my name. I pressed my thumb into the ink pad, sealing my fate. The trap snapped shut. The drive home felt like a victory lap. I told her we were about to become gods, that I'd finally crush everyone who ever looked down on me. It wasn't a dream anymore. She just gave me that empty, perfect smile. The second we were home, she vanished into the bedroom, claiming to be tired. Fine by me. I grabbed Mom and Jessica. Behind the guest room door, the truth came rushing out. "It's happening! We're going to be rich!" Mom slapped her leg, giddy with it. "My boy, what happened? Tell us." "Her name on the deed?" I scoffed, my own excitement making me manic. "Means nothing. We turn $1 million into 3. I'll buy this whole damned place from under her. We get the money, the house, even Chloe's kid." Mom's eyes shone before the doubt crept in. "But Jacob, $1 million. We don't have 50 grand to our name." Jessica's hand went to her stomach, her gaze flinty. "The $50,000 you sent? I haven't touched it. Take it." I grabbed her, kissing her hard. "That's my girl." Mom's jaw tightened with resolve. "You have to risk it for the biscuit. I'm going home. I'll beg every relative we have, promise them insane returns. I'll get something." "It's not enough," I snapped, my patience gone. "There's small time." Then I remembered something Chloe said. Loan sharks. 1 month. The score would cover any interest. "We'll get a real mansion and leave her to rot." The 3 of us were drunk on the plan, on the greed, on finally taking what the world owed us. We were laughing, lost in the vision of our new life. I told myself this was for my real family, that what I was doing was justified. It was the only way to sleep at night. The next day I made the first calls. The risk was a drug, a fire in my veins that burned away the part of me that knew this was wrong, the part that felt sick. I'd look at Jessica, at her swelling belly, and tell myself this was for our son. Chloe was just a bridge to get there, a bridge I was willing to burn. I had to keep a placid face around Chloe, but every smile felt like a crack in a mask. The pressure was a constant hum, a wire pulled tighter and tighter inside my chest. I remembered signing the ultrasound form. Husband. It had felt right, more real than the ring on Chloe's finger. In my heart, Jessica was my wife. While Chloe was picking out tuxedos, I was picking out a future with another woman. I told myself it wasn't betrayal, just survival, a cold, necessary calculation. That $50,000 wire was just the beginning, a down payment on my freedom. I just had to find the other $950,000. The goal felt so close. "She's just my ATM," I texted Jessica. The words were vile, a poison I had to swallow to get what I wanted. It was a wall to keep the guilt from eating me alive. "When are you getting her house?" she'd ask. The question was a drumbeat, pushing me forward, silencing the quiet voice that whispered I was becoming a monster. "I'll get my name on the deed," I promised. The part about making her disappear, just empty talk. A stupid macho boast to prove I was in control. It had to be. Idiot. A TM disappear. Every word I used to describe her was a chip at my own soul. But this was war, I told myself, and she was acceptable collateral damage. They deserved nice things, my mother and Jessica. Baby clothes, dinners out. Her money paid for it all. In my twisted mind, it felt like justice. I was the sweet boy who'd saved her from the rain. I had played the part so perfectly for so long that the lie had become its own kind of truth. Sometimes I'd catch a look in her eyes, a strange stillness that wasn't there before. I dismissed it as paranoia, my own guilty conscience making shadows. "The interest is non-negotiable," the first shark told me, his eyes like chips of glass. I could feel my nails digging into my palms as I agreed to his terms. I was in hell, but I kept digging because I believed there was a paradise on the other side. That delusion was the only thing that kept me from collapsing. The plan felt like a sick kind of poetry. I would use her own fortune as collateral to borrow the money that I would then use to destroy her and take it all. I signed the loan papers without reading them. The words didn't matter. Only the numbers in the wire transfer mattered. They were the only thing that was real. "You miss a payment, we take a finger," one of them joked, though he wasn't smiling. The fear was a cold knot in my gut, but the greed was a bonfire. I was running on fumes, a mix of terror and exhilaration. Mom was hitting up our broke relatives, and I was meeting with men who broke legs for a living. Chloe seemed elsewhere, distant. I chalked it up to work stress, never once imagining she was quietly dismantling the world I was trying to steal. I'd look at my pathetic bank balance and feel a surge of righteous fury. This was my one chance to claw my way out of mediocrity, and I would take it. I'd think about her jewels, the emerald necklace her mother wore. I could already see it on Jessica. It was where it belonged, on the real queen of my life. Jessica deserved it. She had stood by me when I had nothing. Chloe had just bought me things. There was a difference. I had to believe there was a difference. This whole thing was a masterpiece. My masterpiece. I wasn't just a con man. I was an architect of a new destiny for my family. I was a provider. I waited for my mother's call. The tension, a physical thing, a crushing weight on my chest. Every piece was in place. All I needed was her to come through. That investment agreement Chloe's lawyer drafted, I signed it without a second thought. The only thing I saw was 300% return. It blinded me to everything else. Getting my name on that deed was the final move. The penthouse wasn't just an apartment. It was a kingdom. My kingdom. The ultimate symbol of my victory. "It's a sure thing," I kept telling Mom and Jessica, my voice a mask of confidence I didn't feel. Her own lawyer drew it up. I was selling the lie to myself, too. I could see it. Standing on that balcony, the city lights spread out below me. Mine. The vision was so intoxicating it drowned out the screaming alarms in my head. I was using my fiancé's assets to secure my future with my common-law wife. It was an ugly, tangled knot, but I couldn't see any way to cut it but forward. The day the loan was set to close was the longest of my life. I was a ghost in that house, a bundle of raw nerves hiding behind a casual smile. Then the sound of the garage door. My heart slammed against my ribs as I saw her car. I ran to meet her, a desperate prayer on my lips. Please, please have it. She looked like she'd been through a war, clutching a filthy duffel bag. "I got it," she gasped, her eyes wild as she pulled the curtains. "I got the money." My cousin showed up, out of breath, clutching a stained tote bag. She'd bled my family dry for me, hitting up every relative with a sob story about a mansion and a guaranteed return. The bag was full of their crumpled, desperate cash. It was their entire future, everything they had. To my mother and cousin, it was just the down payment on a fantasy. "How much?" Jessica gasped. My mom announced the number like a prize, 300,000. The 65% I still needed felt like a canyon. My own voice felt foreign when I told them my plan, a conspiratorial whisper full of false confidence. I found a guy, Mom, a man on the South Side who moves fast. They call him Frankie the Razor. I watched the name land like a body blow. I'm meeting him at his casino at 8. My mother's face drained of color. Jacob, that's a loan shark. They're animals. I knew. A cold dread was already coiling in my gut. There's no other way, I snapped, my own panic making me cruel. The lie had to be solid. Chloe promised me the spot. We get the cash, we pay the shark, and we walk away with millions. It's a sure thing. This is it. Our one chance, I said, my desperation echoing Jessica's. She was already talking about Chloe shining her shoes. The ugliness of it all was a price I was willing to pay. The drive to the South Side was the longest of my life. I kept telling myself this was what a real man does. He takes risks. He provides. I wasn't a failure borrowing from a monster. I was a hero on a quest for my wife. At 7:30, I kissed Chloe goodbye. The lie about a late client meeting, tasting like ash in my mouth. Each mile I drove toward that casino felt like a step further away from the man I thought I was. I had to prove I was worthy of her father, of this life. The thought of her kept me going. I wasn't just getting a loan, I was buying my way into her world finally. My mother's worried face flashed in my mind. Be careful, son. I just nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. I was gambling with her life, too. The headache was immense. For the next 2 hours, my old life ended. I stepped into that smoky basement and saw him on a leather sofa, his scarred face a mask of indifference. It was Frankie. I was really doing this. He stared at me like I was a piece of meat. 650,000! His gravelly voice scraped the air. You walk with 550. The debt is for 30 days. I was a lamb, and the butcher was naming his price. You owe me $1 million. You're late. You lose a leg. My whole body screamed at me to run, but the gambler inside, the desperate man, took over. The vig is high, but I can cover it. I tried to sound bigger than I was, dropping her father's name like a shield. I'm Richard's son-in-law. Frankie just sneered. I don't give a damn who you married. No collateral, so you sign in blood. My boys film it. The humiliation was part of the deal. If I defaulted, the video went to her father. Without a second thought, I agreed. Greed is a powerful anesthetic. I signed the paper, pressed my bloody thumbprint next to my name, and recorded his shameful little video. When I left with that bag of cash, I felt like a king, not a slave. The postnup meant the debt was mine alone. At 10, I walked in the door, swaggering under the weight of my terrible decision. I was pale and shaky, but I felt electric, clutching that money like it was salvation. I'm home, I shouted, my voice buzzing with a manic energy. I dropped the bags on the table. The thud was the sound of my victory. Chloe, I did it. I got the $1 million. I needed her to see me as her hero. She looked at the money, then at me, and her smile was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Oh, Jacob, you're amazing. Her words erased every doubt. I had done the right thing. I was a capable man. Anything for you, Chloe, I swore, my chest swelling with pride. When she said we were going to her father's headquarters in the morning, I knew I had finally made it. The future was ours. That next morning, I felt like I was floating. Driving to that shimmering skyscraper, I wasn't just Chloe's husband anymore. I was her partner. I was about to be a millionaire. This was the first day of my real life. She led me not to a penthouse office, but to a cold, sterile conference room. A man in a suit waited for us. This is Mr. Lee, head of compliance. The introduction felt flat, procedural. I shook his hand, trying to project success. An honor, Mr. Lee. He didn't smile, just started talking about routing the $1 million through some kind of shell subsidiary. It sounded impressive and confusing. After 30 days, he droned on. The principal and the 300% return will be wired to you. That was it. That was the magic number. The contracts he pushed at me were just a formality. 300%. I grabbed the pen, my hand trembling, and scrawled my name again and again. Jacob Davis. I could feel Chloe watching me, and I felt nothing but a profound sense of accomplishment. I had done it. It wasn't an investment agreement. It was a surrender. Buried in the legal jargon was a clause turning my $1 million into an unconditional loan to her, with no repayment date. I wasn't just losing the profit. The principal was gone forever. The weeks that followed were a blur of blissful ignorance. I played the part of the millionaire in waiting, letting my mother and cousin plan their new lives. I was invincible, floating on a cloud of my own making. I ignored the growing tension in the house, Jessica's smugness, Chloe's quiet distance. They were just details. I was too focused on the finish line, the day the money would hit my account and make it all real. I came home early one afternoon to find the house unnaturally quiet. The air felt charged, heavy. As I walked toward our bedroom, I heard a sharp, cold voice that barely sounded like my wife's. I peered through the cracked door. My cousin Jessica stood there, looking terrified, wearing one of Chloe's necklaces. Chloe's face was like stone. The fantasy I'd built in my head began to crumble right then. Jessica saw me and flinched, dropping a lipstick to the floor. "Does my necklace fit you well, cousin?" Chloe asked, her voice flat and dangerous. I had stepped into the middle of something I didn't understand. "Chloe, you're home," Jessica stammered, fumbling with the clasp. Before I could even ask what was happening, I saw the look on Chloe's face. It wasn't anger. It was pure, cold satisfaction. I looked from my panicked cousin to my wife's icy stare. "Those are family heirlooms," Chloe said, never taking her eyes off Jessica. "Take it off. Now." In that moment, I realized I wasn't the gambler. I was just the fool. The instant my fingers closed around the necklace, something in her snapped. The fear was gone, replaced by a feral, cornered animal desperation. She grabbed her belly, collapsed to the floor, and started shrieking. "He pushed me! My stomach! My baby! Jacob, Mom, he's trying to kill our baby!" It was a perfect, calculated performance. Hearing the screams, my mom and Chloe burst in. Mom saw Jessica on the floor and flew at Chloe, slamming her into the wall. "Are you out of your mind?" she howled. "She's pregnant. If my grandbaby is hurt, I'll kill you." I looked at Chloe, and all I felt was a white-hot, righteous anger. How dare she? "You've gone too far," I snarled, making my voice hard as stone. "So she touched your junk. You had no right to lay a hand on her." The woman staring back at me was a stranger. "You pretend to be so perfect, but you're poison inside," I spat. But she didn't fight back. She just froze. All that fire in her turned to ice. I didn't know then about the camera humming in the corner, capturing everything. I thought I had won. A strange, chilling smile crept across her face. "Fine. If you're so concerned, you'd better watch over her for the next 2 days." Her eyes swept over us, cold and calculating. "Because the day after tomorrow, at Dad's 60th birthday, I have a gift for all of you that you'll never forget." Those 2 days were a blur of nervous energy. Tonight was the night. Her father had rented out the grand ballroom at the city's top 5-star hotel. The guest list was a catalog of the city's power players, people who were about to see me for who I really was. Back at the house, my mom and Jessica were practically vibrating with excitement. It was 30 days to the day since I'd made my investment. Tonight wasn't just a birthday party. It was my arrival. The night I'd finally become the man I was always meant to be. When Chloe appeared in her gown, I barely noticed. I was too busy looking at my own family. Mom was poured into a garish, bright red sequin dress that looked like it cost $20, the seams screaming for mercy. She'd plastered her face with white powder and clown red lipstick. But Jessica was the main event. Her pregnant belly was crammed into a gaudy, glittering gown, and around her neck, my real prize, the emerald necklace. On her finger, the pink diamond, my future. They looked ridiculous, a cheap imitation of wealth. "You look like a millionaire's wife," Mom gushed. "That green thing is blinding. You show them what real class is." Jessica preened, touching the necklace, her chin tilted with an arrogance that made my chest swell with pride. "Don't worry, Mom," she promised. "When my $3 million comes through, I'm buying a new car." She turned to me, her eyes hard. "Jacob, you have to be strong. You put that money on the table and demand he sign over the house. Don't you let them push you around." I slicked my hair back, feeling the crisp fabric of my new tuxedo. I already felt like a king. "Don't worry," I told her, my voice full of confidence. "This is the perfect stage. In front of everyone, I'll announce my success and claim my half of the house. They won't dare say no." Chloe stood in the doorway watching us. For a second, I saw something cold in her eyes, but then it was gone. "Ready?" she chirped, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Dad's waiting for us." Instantly, our faces softened into practiced, loving smiles. I rushed to her side, the dutiful husband, my hand on her arm, a complete lie. "You look amazing, honey. Let's go. We can't keep your father waiting." She didn't pull away. In the limo, I stared out the window, dreaming of the millions that were now mine. The future was finally here. I barely noticed the city lights blurring past, my heart pounding with anticipation. At 10 a.m., we arrived. The ballroom glittered, chandeliers dripping light onto the city's elite. A string quartet played softly. This was my new world. For my mom and Jessica, it was like landing on another planet. Their eyes were wide, darting from the towers of champagne to the designer clothes. "God, Jacob," Mom whispered. "It's a palace. Look at the lobsters." Jessica forgot her meek little act. She pushed through the crowd, chest out, showing off the fake emerald as if she owned the place. Chloe's parents were by the door. When her dad saw us, his smile faltered, but her mom waved us over. "Jacob, you're here. Take your mother and cousin to the VIP table." Pride surged through me. VIP, that's what I was. "You look great, Mom," I said, loud enough for others to hear. "Dad, happy birthday," I began, unable to wait. "And today is a double celebration. Remember that investment I made? It just paid off. This is the day I prove I'm worthy of this family." Whispers started around us. Everyone knew I came from nothing. Let them whisper. Her father's face was a mask, but I saw a flash of contempt in his eyes. "Is that right, Jacob? Ambition is good, but a man needs to know his place. Don't get carried away. Sit down. We'll talk later." He was just embarrassed to admit I'd succeeded where he probably thought I'd fail. I felt 10 feet tall, waving my mom and Jessica forward to the best seats in the house. At noon, the party began. After the speeches, it was our turn. But I wasn't waiting. I stood up, strode onto that stage, and took the microphone right out of the MC's hand. The room fell silent. Every eye was on me. "Friends," my voice boomed, full of power. "I'm Jacob Davis. Today is my father-in-law's birthday, and I have a priceless gift for him, and for my beloved wife, Chloe." At our table, Mom was clapping like a seal. Jessica was on her feet, ready for her close-up. I looked at Chloe. "A month ago, to prove my worth, I took our last $1 million. I risked it all on a company project. Today, that risk paid off. $3 million is in my bank account, and I'm not just repaying a debt. I'm buying my share of our home. I want everyone here to witness that I, Jacob Davis, am a man who provides." It was the speech of my life. I could feel the room hanging on every word. This was how you earn respect. The polite applause felt like a standing ovation. I looked down at Chloe, pinning her with my gaze. Your move, I thought. Deny me now, and you'll be the villain in front of everyone. But then I saw her smile, that same cold, terrifying smile from the other day, and a knot of ice formed in my stomach. The show was about to begin. She stood up slowly and walked onto the stage, graceful and serene. She came right to me and took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," Her voice was steady, clear as a bell. "You all heard my husband. He's done so much to prove himself. So I also have a gift. For my good husband, my good mother-in-law, and my good cousin, sitting right there." The way she said "good cousin" made hundreds of heads snap toward Jessica. My face twitched. Something was wrong. "Honey, what is it? It's Dad's birthday. Let's talk at home." The words sounded weak, desperate. "At home?" She smiled. "Oh no, a surprise like this is best opened in public." She turned and snapped her fingers. "Roll the presentation." The giant screen behind us flared to life. The lights dimmed, and the only thing illuminating the shocked silence was the cold blue glow from the screen. It wasn't a birthday video. It was a hospital ultrasound, blown up to the size of a billboard. Patient, Jessica Miller, gestational age, 20 weeks, and at the bottom, 2 words that ended my life. Spouse signature, Jacob Davis. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. The whispers started instantly. "What is that? Isn't that Chloe's cousin? The signature says husband. My God, he's been hiding a pregnant mistress." The murmurs became a roar. The second I saw the screen, all the blood drained from my body. I stumbled back, shaking. "It's fake," I stammered into the mic, my voice cracking. "Chloe, it's a setup. That's not my name. That's not my signature. I don't know her." The lies felt like sand in my mouth. Down at the table, my mom had gone rigid and slid right out of her chair. And Jessica. She was clutching her stomach, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. It was over. I tried to laugh, some sick joke she was playing, but her voice was a razor. Then the speakers crackled, and our private venomous words filled the silent room. My blood turned to ice. It was Martha and Jessica. Every greedy plan, every whispered lie from my own wedding night, now an echo in a room full of enemies. And then my own voice hit me, cold and alien, talking about tragic accidents. About her. The silence in the room was an accusation, and I was guilty. The words left my mouth and poisoned the room. Everything becomes mine. Suddenly, forks stopped moving. The smiles on our friends' faces didn't just fade, they shattered. They weren't looking at me anymore. They were seeing me for the first time. A monster. A complete monster. Something inside me just snapped. They were going to kill me. Someone yelled for the police. Her father's security formed a wall, and my world shrank to the size of a cage. I was on the floor, crawling. I don't remember falling. I just clung to her leg like a child, the words spilling out. They made me say it. "Chloe, I love you. For the $3 million, I begged, my mind still locked on the prize. The house. I saw the revulsion on her face just before her shoe pushed me away. $3 million? Her laugh was brittle, sharp. "You're still dreaming." On the screen, a new video started. A face from my nightmares appeared. $1 million in 30 days, the loan shark's voice boomed, or I take a leg. Then everyone saw it. My bloody thumbprint sealing the insane deal. "That secret project, Jacob?" Chloe's voice was a death sentence. "That was me, my company, a trap I set just for you." My head started to spin. "That wasn't an investment," she continued, twisting the knife. "It's a personal loan that's gone forever. You'll never see a dime." I made a choking sound, a wounded animal sound. I looked at her father for help, for a way out. "Tell her it's not real," I pleaded. His laugh was cold steel. "You plan to harm my daughter. That $1 million? It's for her pain." And just like that, my last hope vanished. She had outplayed me from the start. A document fluttered down in front of me. "Remember the postnup you signed?" she asked. I grabbed the paper. "If you cheat, you get nothing. 0. All debt is yours alone." My own thumbprint mocked me. "No, this is fraud," I screamed. "That's your house," I shrieked, my sanity fraying. "Why am I stuck with the debt?" She smiled, a terrible, calm smile. "Oh, the house. I took out a mortgage." "A $30 million mortgage," she said. "It's a negative asset. You'd be inheriting a $30 million debt. Can you handle that?" My mind just broke. She'd hollowed out the entire fantasy, leaving me buried in an abyss of debt. The mob's money, my family's savings, all gone. And a loan shark was coming for me. Then the ballroom doors crashed open. It was him, Frankie, with a dozen men holding bats. This was her grand finale. She had planned it all. My 30 days were up. He saw me kneeling there and smirked. Her father waved his security away. Frankie yanked me up by the hair. "Got guts, kid," he growled. "Where's my million?" I couldn't breathe. A dark, hot stain of shame spread across the floor beneath my feet. I started screaming, pointing a shaking finger at them, at my mother, at Jessica. "They have it! Her necklace! Take the jewels! Don't kill me!" The son, the lover, he vanished. I threw them to the wolves to save my own skin. Frankie's eyes lit up, fixing on the green gems on Jessica's neck. He tore the necklace from her throat as she screamed my name like a curse. He weighed it in his hand, and for one insane second, I thought it might be enough. His face twisted into a mask of pure fury. He slapped her hard. "You stupid bitch," he roared. "You think you can fool me with $30 of glass?" Jessica stared at the worthless fake, then at me, her mind breaking. Chloe's voice cut through the chaos. "Did you really think I'd let you steal my family's heirlooms? You got a broke con man who owes the mob $1 million. That one sentence finally shattered Jessica completely. She flew at me like an animal, clawing at my face. "You liar! Give me my 50 grand back!" she shrieked, gone to madness. Her attack pushed me over my own edge. I hit her back, and we were brawling on the floor. "It's your fault!" I screamed. Then my mother jumped in. "My 300,000!" she cried, clawing at us both. This was my family, a portrait of greed eating itself alive, a lie imploding. It was a sickening mess. Then, cutting through the screams, came the sound of police sirens. The doors burst open again, and uniforms flooded the room. "Police!" The word froze us. They called our names. Jacob, Martha, Jessica. My bones felt like they'd turned to dust. There was no escape. I saw the detective nod to Chloe. Then I saw the handcuffs. The cold, final click as they closed around my wrists was the sound of my world ending. "Jacob Davis," the officer said, his voice flat, "you're under arrest." Fraud. Conspiracy to commit murder. I turned to Chloe, my eyes pleading. I was wrong. "Please," I begged, "don't let them take me." I saw something worse than hate in her eyes. Pity. "You made your choice." They dragged me away. The room was so still after that. I heard her father hold her. I heard my mother-in-law crying but smiling. Then he announced she was the new executive vice president. The applause felt like a physical blow. 15 years. The judge's words were a life sentence. The debt, the lies. They were my only companions now. I'll be a broken man when I get out, still buried under millions. I heard my mother had a breakdown in prison. Now she's in a psychiatric facility. Jessica got a suspended sentence, but the men I owed found her. She has nothing. No money, no future. Just a baby and a life of running. Now she's hiding somewhere in the city, living a nightmare. That was the price. The divorce was final. I was nothing. She was free. The city's skyline is gone. There's no promise, no sweet coffee, just the slow rot of a man in a prison he built for himself. In this quiet cell, there's no peace. There's no first day of a new life. There is only the end of the last one.